Hello everyone, welcome back to another art time lapse. Today I am going to be doing a gouache piece with the color scheme of this kind of cool blue with just painting something that I'm more comfortable with, something relaxing, and that's kind of clouds. So I know if you've been following my channel for a while, you know I love painting landscape, and I just want to show you the process of how I paint clouds. It's something that I find really relaxing, and overall I do find that the final product is something I'm very happy with. And I think over time, given that I have so much practice painting clouds, I've gotten a little bit more experience on it, and I probably have some insight that might be helpful to share. So to start off, I usually use my gouache with plenty of water, just dilute it down, just painting the background. And then as I add on subsequent layers on the foreground, I add in less water. You will notice here that like I've slowed down so you can kind of see my process. It really helps to kind of find the happy medium when you're painting clouds, where the bottom layer is not completely dry but like still a little bit wet, but not wet enough that when you add on the next layer it blends right in. So here I am adding a little bit of white. I've actually decided to add gouache right onto my artist paper. I don't know if that's the best way to go about it, because what happened is the tip of your gouache tube will end up contacting water, and that might create some grittiness over time, and that's not really good for your paint overall. But I do paint very often and go through my paint very quickly, so I find that it's not such a big effect. That, and also maybe I just find that I save a lot more paint when I just put the paint directly onto the paper. So you can see here I've decided to add white highlights to where I see the tip of the clouds are, and then slowly using my brush blending it into the rest of the background. And it's basically a layer effect. I usually start with the back of the clouds and then work my way towards the front. So speeding it up, you can see that like I'm now adding in some darker blues and blending it in with the background. The clouds are slowly coming in, but of course, like I think the important thing when you're starting to paint clouds is kind of know where your perspective are, where you want your audience to focus, and start with the background first, the clouds that are furthest away, and then work your way forward. Throughout this entire process, you do have to be a little bit patient, waiting for the paint to kind of dry in this right timing, so that when you add the next layer on, it doesn't blend right in. I wouldn't say that's my biggest forte in terms of being patient. I really like to just sit down and finish my painting in one go. So something that I've had to learn over the years. And I always paint from top down instead of bottom up. Here you can see I'm slowing down. I'm trying to like gauge where the water meets the sky. I don't use a ruler in particular to draw a horizontal line, but I do find that in nature there's no perfect line. So I do kind of like approximate, and it seems to be okay so far. So here I'm gonna have a water reflection a little bit more in the middle of the painting. So you see I leave a little bit more white and it's darker on the sides. It just gives the audience more of an idea of where to focus on in the painting, because I feel like the purpose of a painting is to draw focus or a message or tell a story for your audience. If you like the content on this channel so far, my narrating from our time lapses will help very much if you consider giving this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. It will really help a lot. And for those of you who are joining me back for another art time lapse video, thank you so much for joining me on this artist journey. I am just so grateful for your time and consideration as I kind of struggle and figure out my process. I'm trying to show my work through these videos because I want to show everybody that like artwork doesn't just kind of appear out of nowhere, which I think everybody knows, but like actually seeing the process and having an artist narrate through it just adds so much more meaning to the piece, and also like for a better understanding of the craftsmanship and mastery that happens behind it. And you can see over the years of my different types of time lapse video, my art skills I think have slightly improved, and also you see that my art style has also developed quite a bit. So this is more also of a documentation for myself to kind of see where I'm at right now, how I've changed over the years. It's kind of nice to kind of go back over maybe a year ago to see where I'm at. You can see that I've in general still fluctuate, but still veer towards gouache, which is a medium I prefer. But you'll see that sometimes I would use artist paper like hot press paper, and sometimes using gray tone paper. I think that for most artists, we're all experimenters and we love to try out different mediums, but ultimately I think it's very important for you to find something you love and stick to it so that you can refine that skill, so you don't become like a jack of all trades but like a master of none. I find at least that was for me, because when I first started, I loved using watercolor, acrylics, I love doing crocheting and knitting, and I try to do almost like everything. And at the end, like I felt like I learned a lot of new skills, but at the end, if that time had spent dedicated to gouache, I think maybe my artwork would excel a lot more. But with that said, I also think it's important to give enough time for you to experiment and kind of play around with the medium to figure out what you really love, and that takes time. But it's so rewarding when you find that medium that it's like really speaks to you. So here, after doing a little bit of the water work, I am adding in some of the darker shades and colors. Ideally, I would have done this earlier and kind of blend the lighter color, the darker color, or in. It will blend a lot nicely. Now it's going to look a little bit more fragmented. The rhyme and reason why I did this is partially because of time restriction. So for some of you already know that I'm a mommy of two, so I usually paint in between when my kids are napping, so I don't get many opportunities to sit down and just paint all in one go. So that's why like I was not able to do the darker shades at the same time as to blend in with the lighter shades. So here I'm adding some reflection on the water. Of course, in order to have a reflection, you have to have a stark contrast of both shadow and light. So sometimes you'll find that there's some dark blues right beside white. Sometimes it's not about adding more white to accentuate the reflection or the brightness of the water, but adding dark contrast to show how bright that light is. Like the darkest moment, you don't really know how things are dark unless you see hope or some glint of light, I think is what I guess the moral of the story is here. Speeding it up, you can see I'm adding in a little bit of landscape and mountains on the background, and then adding in more shadow in the light. I do find this piece is still missing something in that, like, it's a beautiful landscape, but there's really no specific part that the audience can focus on. So that's something I'm gonna work on coming up. I think maybe adding a boat or something that the audience can like focus their eye on would be good. Maybe it'll be a character on a boat. So, and at the same time, I try to think of the rule of thirds. So for example, I don't tend to add the character right in the center of the piece. I usually do a third of the way, 1/3 or 2/3 of the way across the page. So here you can see I'm adding in a sailboat and use a much thinner brush to kind of do these highlights. And then of course I need to add some kind of character, and for me I think I'll just do something adorable, something cute like Totoro from Studio Ghibli, sailing through like a beautiful sky. I feel like it's so relaxing just trying to think if like this is actually happening to me in real life, how it would feel to sit on a sailboat, look at this endless sky with these beautiful clouds and the reflection on the water, how relaxing that would be, the sounds that I would hear. And that's kind of the message I want to convey in this piece. I want to give the audience a sense of kind of freedom, and also like feel the glory of how big the world can be and how sometimes our problems can be so small. And I sometimes don't realize that unless I step back and kind of look at the bigger side of nature. So here I'm just adding in my Totoro characters. And here is the finished piece. Thank you so much for joining me on this art time lapse, and I will see you next time in another video. Take care and stay creative. Oh, there's my daughter playing with the piece of artwork as I am filming it. She likes to participate. Who knows, maybe you'll see more of her in upcoming videos. Take care and stay creative, everyone. Bye for now.